Hey, hello surgical utopians, welcome back to my channel Surgical Utopia. I'll be continuing with the midface fracture series, and today we'll be discussing about the diagnosis and treatment part of the midface fracture. So we have already discussed about the boundaries of midface, the classifications, the Le Fort lines and everything. I'll give the links in the description below or on the cards above the screens, and today we will be discussing about the diagnosis and treatment part of the midface fracture. So starting from the Le Fort 1 fracture, we'll see the sign and symptoms of the Le Fort 1 fracture. We'll see the sign and symptoms. The first one is the slight swelling and edema, and it is present on the upper lip and the lower lip. So you can see over here that there is edema on the lower lip and also involving the upper lip. The next one is the ecchymosis in the labial and the buccal vestibule over here, and there may be laceration on the upper lip and the intraoral mucosa as well. So the next one is the bilateral nasal epistaxis, that is the nasal bleeding can be seen bilaterally. And the fourth point is the mobility of the dentoalveolar portion of the jaw. So if we palpate the upper alveolar ridge, there may be mobility of the dentoalveolar segment. The next one is the derangement of the occlusion. So you can see over here the occlusion is deranged, or there is disturbance in the occlusion, and patient may complain of pain while speaking or movement of the jaw, and on percussion of the upper teeth a dull cracked cup sound may be present. There may be upward displacement of the entire segment, locking it against the superior intact structure. So such fractures are called as telescopic fracture or impacted fracture, and anterior open bite may be present in these cases. Now coming to the Le Fort 2 fractures. So this is the Le Fort 2 fracture line, and we have discussed these the lines in the previous video. You can study the fracture lines from the previous video, and the link of it is given in the description box. So coming to the sign and symptoms of the Le Fort 2 fracture. So the first one that you will see is the edema or swelling of the middle third of the face over here, and there is gross edema of the middle third of the face, which causes the face to become moon-like. So hence moon face characteristic feature is present in Le Fort 2 fracture. Next one is the circumorbital edema. Maybe swelling present circumorbitally. Along with the edema, ecchymosis may be present surrounding the entire eye, and this gives a black eye appearance. So along with this, there may be depression of the nasal septum. So this gives an appearance of flat face. Other features are the shortening of the face with anterior open bite. This occurs due to the impaction of the fragment against the cranial base, and thus resulting in the shortening of the face with anterior open bite. So the next feature is the dish-shaped face. This occurs due to the downward and backward displacement of the fragment, and resulting into the elongation and lengthening of the face, along with the posterior gagging of the occlusion, resulting in an anterior open bite. So we have the dish-shaped face present because of that. The next feature is the bilateral epistaxis. Occlusion is deranged, or there is disruption of the normal occlusion, and along with these features there may be airway obstructions present because of the downward and posterior displacement of the fracture segment, which impinges on the dorsum of the tongue and thereby obstructs the airway path. We have Le Fort 3 fracture, and in Le Fort 3 fracture the features are as following. There is gross edema of the face that you can see over here, and because of this there is ballooning of the face, resulting in the panda facies feature within 24 to 48 hours of the trauma. Then there may be bilateral circumorbital edema and ecchymosis and periorbital ecchymosis, which gives a feature of raccoon eye. Lateral subconjunctival hemorrhage may be present, where if the patient is asked to look on the medial side, that is towards the nasal side, the posterior limit of the subconjunctival hemorrhage cannot be seen. So this confirms the midface fracture. Along with this, there may be tenderness and separation of the frontozygomatic suture. This will result in the lengthening of the face and lowering of the ocular level. Then dish-shaped deformity may be seen, and flattening and widening of the nasal bridge, and there is deviation of the nasal bridge also seen. Then epistaxis and CSF rhinorrhea may also be seen. So these were the signs and symptoms of Le Fort 1, Le Fort 2 and Le Fort 3 fractures. Then coming for the indications of the closed reduction. So what are the indications of the closed reductions? The first one is that the fracture should not be displaced. The second one is that the fracture is grossly comminuted and there are multiple fragments of the fracture. The third point is that the fracture is exposed significantly by loss of the overlying tissue. And the fourth point is the edentulous maxillary fracture. Fifth point is that the fracture occurring in children with developing dentition. We will talk about the indications of the open reduction. So these are the indications. The first one is that the fracture is displaced. There are multiple fractures of the facial bones, fractures of the edentulous maxilla with severe displacement. In cases where there is delay of the treatment and there is soft tissue interposition between the fracture fragments, where the fracture fragments are not in close proximity. So in these cases, open reduction is indicated for midface fracture treatment. Now maxillary fracture fixation can be done in two ways, that is internal fixation and the external fixation. So first we will talk about the external fixation. So the principle for extracranial fixation is that the extracranial appliances which is used for the extracranial fixation is used for the sandwiching of the midface between the base of the skull and the mandible, which in turn provides a cantilever support to midface in 3 dimension. Now talking about the cranial arch bar suspension, we have the following frameworks. So the first one is the POP head cap with the metal frame and the plaster of Paris. So this is the head cap made of the plaster of Paris and it is associated or attached with a metal framework. The disadvantage of this framework is that it is heavy to carry, it is uncomfortable and unstable. The next one is the halo frame. Halo frame was described by Crawford and it was modified by Mackenzie and Ray in 1970. Halo frame is secured to the skull directly by the screw pins over here. Right. The advantages of this halo frame is that it is lightweighted and so it is comfortable for the patient. It can be easily adjusted and the screw pins are made up of titanium, which is biocompatible. The next we have the box frame. So this is our box frame and it is more stable and rigid and it gives enough support for the unstable fracture also. The next we have the Levant frame developed by the Royal Melbourne Hospital. It provides simple rigid craniomaxillary fixation between the supraorbital rim and the maxilla by central rod which is attached to the upper teeth or upper alveolar ridge by acrylic splint. The next is the internal fixation. Internal fixation can be done by the intraosseous wire, the mini plates and screw, the suspension wire or splint or dentures. So now we will discuss the suspension wires for non-rigid osteosynthesis. These are the different locations for the suspension wire placement, that is frontal, central or laterally placed. Circumzygomatic wiring can be done, then zygomatic wiring is done, palatal wiring is done, intraorbital wiring is done, wiring is done on the pyriform aperture, and peralveolar wiring is done. So the frontal suspension wiring, it is used for the treatment of the LeFort-2 fracture, and intraosseous wiring at intraorbital margin is done, and it helps in the fracture reduction. The next one is the circumzygomatic wiring by Obergäser, and this one is used for the treatment of LeFort-1 fracture. The next one is the orbital rim wiring. The next one is the pyriform aperture wiring. So this is the summary of the suspension wiring according to the fracture site. Central and lateral frontal suspension wiring is done for the LeFort-3 and LeFort-2 fracture. Circumzygomatic wiring is done for LeFort-1 and LeFort-2 fracture. The zygomatic, intraorbital, and pyriform aperture suspension wiring is done for the LeFort-1 fracture. Intraosseous wires or the direct osteosynthesis, and it was given by the Merville and Derome in 1976. First, we have the maxillary wiring for the LeFort-1 over here. You can see the pointer. Then zygomatico-maxillary wiring over here for the LeFort-2 fracture. And frontonasal wiring, which will be done somewhere over here. Zygomatico-frontal wiring over here. Now coming to the disadvantages of the wiring, suspension wirings. It is a non-rigid osteosynthesis. There is no three-dimensional stability present as it gives only monoplane traction. Intramaxillary fixation is always required. The pressure cannot be controlled. The fracture segments are under the functional stresses. There is the loss of the rigidity of the wire. There is delay in healing because of the micro movement of the fracture site. For internal fixations, plate and screws are used, and this is a process of direct osteosynthesis. These are the different structures or different shapes of the mini plates. Mesh fixation. So mesh fixation is used for the retention and alignment of small segment or bone grafts. The site of application is the anterior and lateral wall of the maxilla and anterior table of the frontal bone. Bone plate osteosynthesis. This is the advantages of the bone plate osteosynthesis is that the simple procedure and less intraoperative time is required. The second is that the intraoral approach is sufficient. The third point is that the post-operative intramaxillary fixation is not always required, or the period of the intramaxillary fixation is reduced. The fourth advantage is that the three-dimensional stability is obtained and there is early return of the function. Now for LeFort-1 fracture, the surgical approach for reduction of the LeFort-1 fracture is taken from the maxillary vestibular incision. As you can see over here, a circumvestibular incision is given from the first premolar to the second premolar region on the opposite side, and dissection is done subperiosteally. A U-shaped flap is maintained so that there may be maintenance of the blood supply. Can be exposed from the lateral pyriform aperture up till the intraorbital region. Reduction of the mid-face fracture can be done by the Rowe or Houghton-Williams forceps. These forceps are present in pairs, that is left and right, and one of the ends of the forceps is placed in the nasal floor and the other is placed on the palate region, and using both the forceps simultaneously and in the same direction simultaneously, the maxillary fragments are reduced. In cases where there is the palatal split, the forceps is placed on the buccal side and the traction is given in the medial direction. The fragments at the palatal splits are approximated. Point fixation with mini plates, two at the pyriform aperture region. So you can see over here there are two plates at the pyriform aperture and two plates at the zygomatico-maxillary buttress, and intermaxillary fixation is done if required. Then there may be a 3-point fixation that is done in cases of LeFort-2 fracture. Y-shaped plate is used as the nasofrontal suture. Circular or infraorbital plate is used at the infraorbital rim. L-shaped mini plate is used for the fixation. In cases of Lefort 3, the surgical approaches can be done by the following ways: either by the existing laceration, as you can see over here, then an upper eyebrow approach, that is the supraorbital rim approach, or the upper lid approach over here. Glabella approach can be used for the fixation at the frontonasal suture. Manual approach or the preauricular approach is used for fixation at the zygomatico-temporal suture over here. So the 3-point fixation in cases of Lefort 3 fracture will look something like this: inverted Y-plate fixation at the frontonasal suture, then a 4-hole plate may be used for fixation at the frontozygomatic suture, and a 4-hole mini plate is used for fixation at the zygomatico-temporal suture. Now coming to the complications after treatment of the midface fracture, the first one is bleeding. This occurs where there is severe hemorrhage from the maxillofacial injuries, and the primary blood supply to the midface region is the external carotid system. The midfacial bleeding is mostly manifested as the nasal bleeding or epistaxis. The second one is the cerebrospinal fluid and rhinorrhea or otorrhea may be present. So this is due to the disruption of the lateral cribriform plate. It also results from disruption of the sphenoidal, ethmoidal and frontal sinuses. The third one is the ocular complication. The ocular complication may be manifested as the diplopia, that is double vision. Diplopia occurs due to entrapment of the extraocular muscles. Third one is the enophthalmos and blindness. Enophthalmos will occur due to there is enlargement of the bony orbit, so there is inward displacement of the eyeball, and blindness will occur rarely, and it is due to the injury to the optic nerve directly. It may also occur due to ischemia, which will result after the retroverbal hemorrhage. So these are the complications of the midface fracture, that is bleeding, mostly the nasal bleeding or epistaxis, rhinorrhea or otorrhea due to the dural tear, then ocular complications such as the diplopia, enophthalmos and blindness. So this was it about the midface fracture, its diagnosis and treatment.